Assalamu alaikum. That is, may God's peace be upon you. Welcome back to the Power of Educating Our Own. This is a podcast hosted by the Claire Muhammad Schools Network. We are a network of approximately 20 schools. Those schools are full time, strong in, which are our schools that function on the weekend, and virtual schools. I am one of your co hosts, Sister Marsha Nivens Muhammad, and I am here with
And Shakir.
And Patricia Salahuddin. Welcome.
Yes, welcome. I feel like it's a welcome back. I feel like we haven't been in this space in a while. So
I was thinking the same thing.
I was like, I don't think I've done this in a while, but it's always nice to be back, especially to share the screen with my co-hosts and just honor the work that we're doing as a community, making sure that we have all the things that we need collectively to thrive. And so it's a pleasure to be amongst some committed believers. And to that, I'll we can really pretty much jump right into what we're going to be discussing today. So today, we have a special guest with us. Her name is Sister Yakudala Ibrahim, and we are going to be talking about preparation in terms of like nutrition for Ramadan. So we're like 60 days or so out. I've seen people like posting things. We may just be right under the 60-day mark, right? And so, um, what does that look like? What does it look like prepping for that? What do we do in terms of nutrition and meals and, getting ready for it? I know some of us kind of just jump right into it and get it going, and others of us kind of walk into it smoothly with a plan. And so we're gonna talk to an expert today, right? To give us some best practices so we don't just jump in hurting ourselves, especially thinking we've been doing this for so long. But I'm sure that our dear sister has some best practices for us. So I'm just gonna bring her right on to the screen. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Yakudullah.
Welcome.
Walaikum salam, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for
Good
having me.
evening.
Thank you for being with us. Yeah, so tell us about yourself, right? Our viewers who are watching us from all over the place, some may know you, some may not. Tell us who you are
Okay,
and
cool.
what you do.
All right, awesome. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good evening. I'm Yakutala Ibrahim Muhammad, registered dietitian nutritionist in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been practicing since 2007. So yeah, alhamdulillah. It's an honor to be with you this evening. Um, so yeah, I love nutrition. I love conversation. I love inspiring others to be healthy. So yeah, I look forward to sharing with you this evening.
Thank you for that. And so nutrition, right? Like, so I look at a lot of stuff. I don't say watch, but maybe I guess I watch it too, right? I look at a lot of stuff online as it relates to nutrition. Like I just started trying to do the little juicing thing. I made some juice last night. I made apple, celery, and ginger. It was good.
Mm.
It was good. I'm like baby stepping myself into it. So kind of tell us how you started, like how the love for nutrition started for you.
So that's a good question. I moved here from Michigan in 1993. So went to school here. Went to North Atlanta. I went to Darnur for elementary, and then I went to North Atlanta for high school and Georgia State for college. And that's where I was introduced to nutrition. Um, I I loved being able to connect with people through nutrition, through food, through the conversation, right? Through being able to taste, uh, and smell and feel different foods and being able to connect with it, right? Looking at the power of food and how it connects us in different ways on life, culture, community. If you think about it, everything we do is tends to be centered around food. If you have an event at the masjid, there's going to be food. If you have a meeting, there's going to be food. If you
Yes.
travel, you're going to experience different food. So it's always a great way to explore cultures, strike up conversations, and being able to meet people, where they are and learn about them. So, alhamdulillah.
Nice. And so as we talk about, preparation for Ramadan, uh, I'm just curious to know, like, what could we or should we be doing different, right? It feels like, okay, Ramadan is coming. We know that we're going to be fasting. Today I'm eating, tomorrow I'm not. Isn't it that simple?
You would think, yes, right? Um, and a lot of people tend to, hey, come in the mindset, I've been doing this for, 30 plus years. Some people have been doing this for a very long time. Um, and, to me, I find every Ramadan is different. And I find it, important. Yes, we've been doing this for a while, um, but our bodies change, situations change, and we really, not just food, but really looking at what, how do we want our Ramadan to be different from last Ramadan, right? What are some of the goals that we're setting for ourselves? What does the intention look like, right? And all this is before Ramadan. You don't want to wait till the night before, or they sight the moon and you're like, oh my God, Ramadan's tomorrow. That's how some of us get into it, right? And we're like, oh man, I don't have any dates. I don't have any. I don't have any. Oh my God, I need to go grocery shopping, right? So you really want to kind of think about how do you ease yourself into Ramadan stress free? How do you plan accordingly ahead of time so you're not freaking out? We got kids in school, we got schedules. Now all of a sudden we're not eating during the daytime. So you really want to try to prepare yourself, and we're what, less than 2 months out. So wrap your mind around that for a minute. Really think about it, right? I was seeing, I know here in Atlanta, there's a brother that does dates out of California. His name is Sam Cobb, and everybody gets on the Sam Cobb. Oh my God, we got to get our date. Something like, yeah, okay. I haven't seen that yet. I'm sure it's coming. But the point and purpose is to make sure that you're preparing your space, preparing your home, preparing your intentions. It's not just about what I'm gonna eat. Inshallah, Ramadan is also supposed to go beyond that. We'll talk about what we eat, but we also want to look at, what's the bigger picture, right? What do we want to get out of Ramadan other than hunger? And how do we renew our intentions, right? I'd ask you, how do you prepare for Ramadan? And then, of course, I'll give, some tips and strategies. But how do you prepare for Ramadan? Anyone can answer that.
I definitely have been like, okay, I knew Ramadan was coming and now it's tomorrow and I gotta go shopping because my children gotta eat in the morning. So I've been that. I've definitely been that person. And then I've also, I've also taken time, right? So I feel like it just depends for me, like what's going on around Ramadan, right? And I feel a little bad saying that, right? Because we just talked about like, having the intention and preparing. But the reality is that sometimes I'm in that space and other times it's like, you gotta go shopping right now. Because in the morning the kids gotta eat. So it's been a mix of the two for me.
Well, for me,
Okay, what about you,
I
Rob?
have been, yeah, like Marsha, I've been in both those places. But now that I'm a little uh, settled in terms of I don't work anymore, at least outside the home. It's easier for me to be more aware of Ramadan and think about this is about the job and this is what should I be should doing a little bit more fasting, practicing a little bit more. And so when I'm fasting in the month of Rajab and Shaban, I'm being, I'm preparing myself. So I have some food and, the types of food in the house that I need to have and have a routine for myself. So it helps a lot. And plus, when actually Ramadan comes and you're dealing with the iftars and at the masjid, you know, you got to think about how you're going to handle that. And then the family, we like to prepare iftar for the family. I mean, the family like to prepare Ramadan, and I have to get them organized and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and this is when we're going to do it. And so, yeah, it's pretty thick and more now these days than it used to be.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
then for us,
Super.
I think it's because we have so many children in our family and it's multi generational. We look at the preparation for Ramadan as more than just the fast itself, but how we're going to decorate our homes. And we all think about, are we going to have a theme this year? And we have family meetings during Ramadan. So who's going to host the first family meeting and all of that? But we also talk about diet and nutrition, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. And Dr. Patricia, I'm glad you mentioned that we're in the month of Rajab. And so in this
There you
time,
go.
now we're looking at who has what days to make up before Ramadan starts. And that's a conversation that we have in our family, just in our own preparation. And then for community iftars to decide if we're which day we want to do it at the masjid and which days we want to do it at our home for our own iftars. Because when we do our family iftars, we have between 40 and 50 of us alone. So just to plan that takes that planning for Ramadan.
Right. I love it. I love it. Um, a lot of it is also looking, how you can plant, how you can uh, really kind of sow the seed in preparation for Ramadan. I think it's important to also remind ourselves as we prepare the importance of making up those fasts, right? Or fasting a few days before Ramadan to get you prepared. Because a lot of times, we say, oh my God, Ramadan's tomorrow, we start fasting. This is the first time you done fasted in a year. If you're not doing the white nights or you're not doing, Mondays and Thursdays, then now you're back into Ramadan and now your body's adjusting. So why not do it a little bit earlier? Recognize, yes, I may have some fasts to make up. This is a great opportunity to actually prepare your mind and body as you approach Ramadan. So if you have some days to make up, or you say, hey, this is a great time to at least start preparing my body and maybe do Monday and Thursday in preparation for Ramadan. So that's not your first time fasting in a year. um, and then maybe you have your sister friends who can fast with you and you guys get together and break fast and things like that. I know last year we did a session. I think I mentioned this earlier for International League of Muslim Women out of Philadelphia, and we were talking about how some of the sisters they're very involved in the masjid, right? So they're there a lot of the nights and they're doing iftar and things like that. But you also want to look at what are you getting out of it as far as like how are you honing in, how are you zoning into what you want to get out of Ramadan. It's great to be in community. It's great to be getting those blessings, but also what are you getting out of Ramadan spiritually, right? And how are you kind of honing on or going within, if you will. We have our family meeting for Ramadan right before Ramadan. This year it's January 15th. So we actually sit, we talk about, okay, what day are we hosting? What day are we going to host at the masjid? So we have like two iftars that we know we're going to do. And then it's more like keep it really simple at home because you have to also look at your intentions. And a lot of times, what we try to do is eat at home and then go to the masjid for prayer.
Hmm.
So it's a very simple iftar. You break fast, you have something very simple, and then you're like, oh wow, it's almost time for Isha. So we try to go to the masjid and do Isha, and then we go into Tarawih. So it's really looking at what do you really want to get out of Ramadan, right? Making sure you're renewing your intentions and not necessarily, really not get it caught up into I'm going to every iftar. Every iftar I'm gonna be there. If so and so hosts, we're gonna be there. We may have wallahi, we may have like three iftars that we definitely go to, but other than that, Auntie Jeanette is definitely one of the iftars we go to. Last Saturday in Ramadan. Inshallah, we're gonna be there. We've been there for years. Like some of it is tradition that you want to carry on. You're gonna have one for your home. You're gonna host and get the blessings from one at the masjid. But other than that, it's kind of like, yo, my intention is to really finish the Quran. I really want to sit there and read it along with the, Khatib and read it and finish Quran. So you also have to look at that. Like, yeah, we're hosting iftars, we're in community, but did I read my juice for the day? Like, think about it and what your intentions are for the month. I really want to finish this. And then, going in even after that, like the 6 days in Shawwal. What? Of course, we want to do our 6 days in Shawwal, and don't let it get too far out, and then you miss it. After the 3 days of Eid, you picking it back up. So really, like, write it out. Like, actually write it out. Like, this is what I want to do. These are my plans, and then you have to look and reflect and say, if I want to do that, then something's not going to happen. I'm not going to be at every iftar, and that's okay. So you have to go within and see what's really important to you and really reflect on that. Making up missed fasts from previous years, renewing your intentions, really preparing your heart, right? All the Ramadan journals, they come out. You might print one out or you might get one, and you fill it out and say, what do I want for Ramadan, right? Really think about how you want this Ramadan to be different from the last Ramadan, or how you want to improve upon it. Making sure you read Surah Mulk. If you're not already reading Surah Mulk before you go to sleep at night, that's a great tradition to start in preparation for Ramadan. Because inshallah, in Ramadan, you're going to be reading every night. You're going to be reading, inshallah, more Quran than just Surah Mulk. So why not prepare your heart and prepare your mind and start making that a habit now before you get into Ramadan?
Those are
Making that
great
connection.
suggestions. I love those. Excuse me for interrupting you. And what I was sitting here thinking was, should we treat this information, this opportunity, like we are talking to someone who just took Shahada on Friday and they're preparing for Ramadan? How would we help them to understand why they need to fast Shawwal and what are the 6 days? What are you talking about? And even reading of Surah Mulk. Why? What does that do? So let's give a little context for our listening audience who may not understand all of that.
Okay, so inshallah, Surah Mulk, and some of us, went to Muslim school or Sunday school and things like that. Surah Mulk is actually a beautiful surah. It's about the story of the cave, right? And we do have a lot of new Muslims in the community that have taken Shahada, and this will be their first Ramadan, right? I know back in the day we had Ramadan buddies. So the person who took Shahada, they would be with their Muslim buddy, and they would kind of prepare them and teach them how to pray and teach them the importance of fasting and things like that. Surah Mulk is Surah 67 in the Quran, and it's actually meant to be a protection, right? So if you read Surah Mulk, it'll actually be a protection for you in the grave, right? So some of it is like, wow, we all have our, different kind of whys of why we read the Quran. But I think it's beautiful that we can read the Quran and it'll actually be one of your, what do you call it? Something that comes to your defense, right? So it's a beautiful reading, and you want to make sure you read that before you go to sleep at night. So that's just one. That's just one example of many. But it really just depends again, who your mentor is. So I know at Atlanta Masjid we have a lot of mentors. We have people that come in and things like that. Who your guide is, right? And that's really going to kind of determine, what you get, okay, or how deep you go, okay. If you were to say, what's the importance of fasting, Sister Quran? What would you tell a new Muslim?
The first thing I would always refer them back to what Allah says in the Quran. And so that is that it gives us an opportunity to get closer to Allah, to tighten the reins on our own worship and our discipline. And that's one of the things I think is important for us when we do that fast psalm as one of our pillars in our faith, because it does increase us in faith. It is something that when you do this, is only between you and Allah. Because you can say you're fasting and you're really not. So that's between you and Allah when you're doing this. So this is an excellent opportunity to increase your faith, your worship, your connection with Allah, his book, because he's speaking to you through the book and we're speaking to him through the prayer. And so that's what I would define for a new Muslim for them, and then go through the steps itself. Because the steps to me are not as important as that commitment that you make. Because you can make a commitment all day long, but if you don't have something in your heart that drives you, so when those stomach pains hit, or when your brain starts to deviate and you start thinking this is too hard, your heart will say to you, you made a commitment to the Creator, you made a commitment to Allah, and that will keep you on track. That improves your discipline. So that's how I would explain that.
I love it. Something bigger. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think I was just thinking, also just fighting against that thought of like this, like people are expecting fireworks, right? They're expecting like this magnificent thing to happen. The birds are gonna start descending from all of that stuff, right? Because it's like, oh, it's Ramadan, and they're like expecting like amazement. It's like, yeah, I'm actually hungry.
You're right.
So it's sort of creating purpose in your explanation for people so that they get past that stuff, right? Because those are the glory, uh, I guess, tales that we. I don't want to say tales like it's not true, but like people have these stories, and everybody doesn't have those. Oh, the sky opened up stories. Yeah. So
Well,
I'm
what
curious.
I'm always reminded.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, no, no.
No, I
Go
was gonna
ahead.
say
Go
I'm
ahead. Say
always
what you're gonna say.
reminded that I was taught when you fast, inshallah, on the day of judgment, you're gonna have your own door that you can go through to get to paradise.
Mhm,
And I was just like, how amazing is that?
mhm,
So it's like, that connection that you get. I'm like, everybody has their own connection, everybody has their own experience, their own stories.
mhm,
But I'm just thinking about, like, the connections that I get, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And to be able to believe that, right? And let
yeah,
that be part of your guide. It's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this. Oh yeah, I'm trying to enter through that door. So a lot of it is also finding your why, finding what propels you forward and what keeps you going. Because
yeah,
yeah, you're gonna be hungry, but you have
mhm,
to understand that the fast is it's you're supposed to get more out of it than just hunger, right?
right.
So inshallah, every Ramadan you get better, right? You get a little better and a little better, and you're like, okay, yes, hunger, but you realize the reward that you're going to reap. You realize the closeness, inshallah, that you'll get, to Allah. The more you fast, inshallah. So you pray for this, and we pray every year, oh Allah, allow us to reach Ramadan again. But you
Right.
pray for it and you get there. So now what you gonna do with it? Like really think about it. And how are you going to make it better than the last? So I think it's important to really think about that. Get together with your sister friends, right? And think about, how is it going to be different. Some people say, hey, this Ramadan, inshallah, I'm going to make Umrah. I'm going to try to do Umrah in the last 10 days, right? That's a whole nother level. Because now you fasting and you're in a different country and you're doing Umrah and the heat and everything else, like that's the next level. So you really have to really renew your intentions and say, what am I ready for? What do I want Allah to prepare me for? Right? And again, going back to those intentions. So
I wanted to say, go back to that new Muslim because I think there's some things that if this is their first Ramadan and if this is the first time they're fasting, the body does things that the body may surprise you with some things, some behaviors that you're not familiar with and that you're not used to when you are fasting. So one of the things the body may do is that you may get a headache. You may have headaches from not eating or not eating. I mean, not eating or drinking. You also may get angry easier. Your temper may flare a little faster when you're not eating than it does when you are. So you may become irritated at people and things. So just be aware. I think we should be aware of that. and not lean into it, not, not to give into it, to know that this is happening and to know why it is happening. This is my body acting this way because it's not used to me doing what I'm doing to it. I'm doing something good for it. It's not used to that. And so if you become, someone says something and you're a little irritated, just kind of control your temper and not get angry. Remember that statement, that hadith, do not get angry. So these are things that our new Muslims may want to, we may want to bring to their attention, because it is something real. It's real, and but two, also, as a nutritionist, I'm sure you can tell us some things that we can do to minimize that, to minimize the headaches, to minimize the kind of things that goes on in the body. Some things that we can do for ourselves in order to kind of make that help that to not happen for us, or if it does, not so intense.
We're definitely here to be tried and tested, and we will be tried and tested through our fast. So get ready, right? Pack your patience. I think it's also important to realize that the reason that we say fast before Ramadan is to prepare you for this. So then when you start fasting, you're not like, oh my God, I got a headache. Because you've already fasted, you've started to fast so you can experience, some of this before Ramadan. Like, think about it. If you're going into Ramadan and we sight the moon today or tonight and we fast tomorrow, where is that lag time on preparing? So yes, you may have a headache, right? You're going to be tested. You have to remember, I'm fasting, right? So these are constant reminders also while you're fasting, that you're reminding yourself. Of course, we're going to recommend proper nutrition and things like proper hydration, making sure that you eat the proper foods during non-fasting hours, right? It's okay. It's actually the sunnah to take a nap, right? You can nap if you need to nap or take a break, right? So recommending or realizing the demands that it will take on your body, and being open to preparing for that, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you won't never get a headache. You're not going to feel hunger. You will, but that is part of the beauty in the test of fasting, right? It's going to remind you, yes, your limitations, but then you want to remind yourself, why am I doing this? You see what I'm saying? So a lot of it, yes, we recommend making sure that you, set your alarm or text or call your suhoor buddy, right? That you're up and you're making your tahajjud. Okay, you're getting your proper hydration and fluids and water and electrolytes and all these great things, right? Your fruits and vegetables, yes, but do expect to be tested. This is not gonna mitigate the test or eliminate the test, right? Even if it's not a headache, you may be tested in another way. So I think it's important to anticipate this and prepare for it, right? And really kind of pray for the best outcomes as you renew your intentions. In our classes, we do a master class, um, and we go over everything. We go over, what to eat for suhoor, what to eat if you're working out, how to hydrate, the best iftars, how to break your fast, right? We break it all down for you, right? But I think the biggest thing is making sure that you surround yourself, right, with community and those who are also going to be fasting. You start your fast early, and you make your plan. What am I doing? First week, second week, third week, fourth week. And realize your plan may deviate depending on what your schedule looks like, depending on the kids in school, depending on your work schedule. But through all of this, we endure, right? And we renew our intention, and we get it done, okay? And we learn from it, right? What we want to do in 6 days of Shawwal, what we want to do for the rest of the year, what we want to do differently, even for next Ramadan. So I think it's a good reminder.
For those of you who just tuned in, you are watching The Power of Educating Our Own, the Clara Muhammad School Network, and we have with us today a wonderful nutritionist, Sister Yakutullah Ibrahim Muhammad, who's giving us some great advice about preparing for Ramadan. I have a question because we were just talking about fatigue and headaches and things like that. Are there things we can do now, start reducing the intake of certain foods or anything like that, that will help us to avoid the Ramadan fatigue or the Ramadan headaches that we may get?
A lot of us are dehydrated. I'll start with that, right? So we may drink a lot of coffee, but not necessarily enough fluids like water, herbal teas, things like that. Um, I would say start. Ask yourself, what's one thing that I can do to prepare myself now for Ramadan? I would recommend increasing your hydration, your water. I would recommend increasing your high water content fruits and vegetables if you don't already include those, right? Especially around like your fruits, your vegetables, your salads, things like that. In Ramadan, of course, for sahur, you can also do smoothies. That's a great way to kind of get in your fruits and vegetables. Um, but making sure that you're making that a priority, right? Right now, not the night before Ramadan starts. Like building up to it, right? Making sure that you're hydrated, making sure that you're getting the fruits and vegetables in, because inshallah in Ramadan you want to do that too. Oftentimes, in the first week we might, eat regularly, but as Ramadan progresses, we tend to eat less and less, right? So really prioritizing things like soups. And teas and waters, and really, it's really an overall transformation if you think about it. So start now.
And so that's the preparation, right? But what about like during Ramadan, right? So, when we're thinking about what we're actually eating for suhoor, what we're eating for iftar, in your experience and your expertise, like tell us some things you've seen and then also like best practices, because I'm sure some of the things you've seen and maybe even some of the things that we do, you're like, sis, I think you need to switch up.
Um, Missing suhoor. That's what you don't want to do. There's blessing in suhoor. There's blessing in taking that. It's a mercy, really, to be able to take suhoor before you start your fast. So, rolling over and slapping the clock or not getting up for suhoor. And then now what do you have? Now you're fasting the whole day and you haven't eaten suhoor. That's a no no. That's a no go, right? So, yes, that is something that you would probably have headaches and be very angry and cranky about because you missed out on your blessing, right? So make it a priority, to make sure that you incorporate the suhoor. I have some friends that go through withdrawal when it comes to coffee. So
Yes.
we're chugging like 6 and 7 coffees a day. We're some coffee holics. Ah! But we're not drinking any water. So now you're in Ramadan, you're not drinking anything, and you're like, yo, I can't get my coffee. The recommendation is really no more than about 300 milligrams of caffeine. That's about 2 cups of coffee. So you want to really say it's not that you can't have coffee, but you don't want to overdo it, right? To the point that your system has all this caffeine and you're not drinking the water, you're not getting in the soups, the herbal teas to help with the hydration. So you might want to scale that back a little bit, even now, like less than
Start.
2 months out. Think about that. Like, how am I going to deal with this when it comes to Ramadan? Because you're not going to be drinking all day. You might have coffee in the morning. You might get to the point where you don't have the coffee in the morning for sahur, but you might have it when you break your fast. So you really ask yourself, what does that look like for me? And it's very different for everyone, right? I'm not a big coffee drinker at all, but for someone who is, you want to kind of think about that and what that looks like. It gives me heartburn, so I don't really drink a lot of coffee. But for the person who is at 5 or 6 coffees a day, that's quite a bit, my friend. And then you're wondering how do I get the water in? How do I get the tea and the soups and the high water content fruits and vegetables? Like, start kind of weaning yourself off of that.
You mentioned something about the suhoor. There's some people I hear them say, "Oh, I can't. I don't like eating breakfast that early. It's too early in the morning for me to eat." They have lots of reasons why they are not eating suhoor, and as you mentioned, it is a blessing. It is a blessing. It's there for us to do. So what is the minimum, for those people to still do their blessings, still get their blessings, but still not disturb their stomach? I don't know what the reason is for not eating, but they will say, I just can't put anything in my stomach that early in the morning, or in my mouth, or what have you. What can they do? What's the minimum that they could do and still earn their blessings?
I would say, again, knowing and understanding the why, right? Prophet
Mm-hmm.
Muhammad SAW said, "This is a blessing, so take it."
Mm-hmm.
And if he says this is a blessing, take it. I'm gonna take it,
Right.
even if it's just a date and water. Hey,
Yes, yes,
that's very
yes.
simple, my friend. You can do
Yeah.
date and water. If
Didn't
that's
want.
all you can do, you can do date and water. And then, of course, there are different layers to suhoor. I find myself in the beginning of Ramadan, I can eat, okay, okay, I'm good. But then as Ramadan progresses, hey, I'm on a protein smoothie. I might have a green smoothie. I might have boiled egg and some oatmeal. It gets really kind of light, right? But the point is, you're still able to partake in that blessing. So
Mhm.
don't miss out on the blessing. Look at the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about so being at a school, I've seen our athletes
Hmm.
fast during Ramadan. I've even seen some professional athletes who say they play a better game during Ramadan. I'm curious to know, like, it was for me as a mother, it was very important my children got the nutrition that they needed. So I'm wondering what kinds of food should we make sure they are having for sahur and make sure they're having for iftar, especially the sahur meal, because that's what's getting them through the day. And my sister used to say to me, give your children food that's going to stick to their stomach
Just
so
stick to
that
the
they can
ribs.
get through the day. So she was big on the oatmeal and the boiled eggs that you're talking about because that's something that quote unquote sticks to your stomach.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious, what kinds of foods would we make sure we have to ensure nutrition and the energy that we'll need, especially if we're doing um, with rigorous work during the day?
Yeah. I know and that's a great question. I know for the professional athletes, they tend to take in a lot more calories, a lot more carbohydrates. Their games are long and hard and fast. So they go into it knowing they're going to require more because they're exerting more. So during the non-fasting hours, they can take in 2, 3, 4,000 calories because they know they're gonna have a game or they know they're gonna be competing. And then some athletes don't compete in Ramadan at all, right? Especially when it comes to like the triathletes and some that I know personally. Ramadan is just not a time that they compete. They'll compete around Ramadan. So it really just depends on, again, what your intentions are. A lot of times when we look at specific nutrition, we're looking at your high fiber carbohydrates, complex carbs. We're looking at to your point, like the oatmeal that you can have in the morning. You want to ask yourself, what do I actually eat, right? I like to work one-on-one, and I do have patients and clients that like, hey, I need a Ramadan session with you so that I can make sure that my nutrition is right because I'm not going to recommend oatmeal to someone who doesn't eat oatmeal. You have to look at your proteins, right? Are you plant-based or are you animal-based, right? Because I can recommend eggs. They're great source of protein. But if you don't eat eggs, then you have to look at a different source of protein. So a lot of it is also, what do you eat? When we go to iftar at night, for the masjid or at the masjid, some of us don't eat certain foods. So then what are we eating? Sometimes we'll eat salad because we don't eat the meat, or there's certain things that we don't eat. So then we end up bringing our own and we eat that to be in community. So you have to look at what really works for the person as well, right? As far as kids in the morning, you have to know what they prefer too, right? What's your protein? What's your carbohydrate? Are you a smoothie person? Are you a quiche or frittata person? Like, hey, I just get up and pop my little frittata in the oven or the toaster oven and heat it up and eat it like something quick. Like, what does your sahur look like? Like, are you a 10-15 minute sahur kind of person? Or are you one of those moms that get up an hour or two early to cook? Like, for real. Like, come on, y'all. This is Ramadan. So, what I encourage my parents, and anybody really, myself as well, as a reminder is keep it simple. You can keep it nourishing with the planning piece of it, but keep it simple. You're not cooking an hour every morning. You know, some of these things can be prepped ahead of time, and it's just a matter of heat and eat. So, you again, it's part of your Ramadan strategy, right? And a lot of times I say this because we tend to get into this, oh, I'm going to cook so much for iftar, and then what happens? We don't eat it. We tend, as Ramadan progresses, it's food wasted, or we put it in the refrigerator and say we'll eat it later, but you don't ever get to it later because now we're on to the next meal and it's different, and we just never get back to that original. So you really want to make sure that your intention is there also not to waste food. Keep it simple, but don't waste food, and realize, depending on your community, it's going to be different every day. So you may not get back to Monday if you're on Wednesday and you've had three different meals by this time. So you really want to think about that as well. I know there's a Ramadan Green Initiative in several masajids across the country, and it's really focused on preventing food waste, making sure that there is a focus on recycling. So you really want to look at that too. Sometimes you can take your to-go plate with you, or your takeaway container and take something home. But you really want to look at what your strategy is as well.
I love that point about
Yeah,
wasting, not wasting.
go
That
ahead.
is so important. We as Muslims are not supposed to waste. And so we remind ourselves that here we are during the month of Ramadan, we're fasting and then we waste food. And we're supposed to be fasting to remind ourselves of how other people feel when they don't have access to food, not because they're fasting, because they just don't have access to food. So here we are wasting. So I thank you so much for reminding us about the waste, and us, those of us who are volunteering at the masjid, we too have to be concerned about how much food we're preparing, or how much food, what we're doing with the food that's not used. How do we recycle? How do we save? Because wasting is not acceptable. Thank you for reminding us of that.
And alhamdulillah, at Atlanta Masjid, I know sometimes, like, if we have, I call Ramadan the month, the National Rice Month, because it's National Rice Month. I don't care what community you go to, you're gonna get some rice in some form, shape, or fashion.
Yes,
Um, and you can freeze
exactly.
rice and you can reheat it. So a lot of it is also looking
Yeah.
at how many people are we preparing for, right? If you're serving children, realize you children plates are not adult plates, right? So really looking
Yes.
at how much am I preparing? Know what days you're eating at home versus the days that you're eating out in community. That helps prevent the waste, right? Because then you're only planning a couple meals at home versus what you're going to eat in the community. So really think about, okay, this week, what iftars are we going out for? Which ones are we cooking at home? Which ones are simple? When I say simple, some type of green vegetable, some type of lean protein. Breaking your fast, of course, with your soups and your fruits and dates and things like that, but really keeping it simple, right? Because like I said, as Ramadan progresses, you're going to eat less and less. You might be like, okay, you know what, today's a smoothie day, I'm okay with that, because your body is going to naturally adjust as you progress with your fast. Those of us who have been doing this for years, we realize this, right? The new Muslims, they're going to learn it, right? Everybody's going to have their experience. So I think it's important to also realize that. So don't go out and buy all this food. Oh, I'm buying Ramadan food for the whole month. No, you don't have to buy it for the whole month. You don't buy it for the whole month. You're not eating at home for the whole month. So really think about, what do I need from week to week versus what do I need for the whole month. Like, yes, I'm going to go get my 11-pound box of medjool dates because I know I'm going to be eating dates every day. Something like that, you're going to need more of, because that's something you're eating every day. But you really want to kind of look at what that plan looks like.
Yeah, that's good to point out. When you were talking, one of the things that I thought about was, you know, what about health? right? So a lot of times when we're talking about Ramadan and the preparation for it, we talk about the concessions that are there for people with health conditions. We, but also, for those who are still fasting or those who may even use this time for a reset for themselves, what tips do you have for us in that regard as it relates to our health?
Well, I mean, alhamdulillah, Allah is most merciful. We know for those who are ill, those who are pregnant, there are certain categories of people who don't have to fast, right? That's a mercy from Allah. But there are things you do in lieu of fasting, right? So if you're looking, it depends on what type of reset you're looking for, right? Some people get the health and wellness reset. Some people are like, hey, the spiritual reset. So I remember when I was pregnant, of course, I didn't fast, but we were able to feed people, right? So take that opportunity to sponsor an iftar or give in sadaqah, right? So you have to really look at your individual circumstance and see what you're going to be doing for Ramadan this year, right? There are blessings in sponsoring iftars, to feeding the believer, inshallah, to get that benefit and that blessing and that reward. So you have to look and see, okay, especially for the new Muslims, what's allowed, right? If I get sick, like truly sick, I can break fast because I can make that fast up. So these are mercies, right, that are allotted or allowed for us. But making sure, whether it's fasting or hosting an iftar or feeding those who are fasting, that you're partaking in that blessing as part of that reset.
Sorry about that. I put myself on mute. And then what about fasting in different stages of your life? I'm wondering like how that changes and the nutrition that we do or don't need, right? So I'm in the perimenopausal girls club, right? Like right now I'm having a hot flash as I'm talking to you.
And
And so I'm
you still with us, sis. You still
listen,
with
I'm here. I'm here. If I do this, it's just because it's sweating a little bit, but I'm here. If I start, glowing, just keep it moving. But I was just wondering, as we, particularly I guess for women, but I'm sure there's some variation of it for men. Like when we're thinking about nutrition and Ramadan, or even nutrition just within itself, and those stages of life that we're progressing through, how do things change in terms of what we need to be thinking about having versus not having?
and it just really depends on what stage of life you're going through, right? So a lot of it, where are you? Um, if you're nursing, is very different than if you're perimenopausal, right? Um, it really, if you're elderly, at certain stages, even with that, you're not required to fast, right? So and some elders, and I know from experience, my mom, bless her heart, alhamdulillah, she'll be 85 in January, um, and she still insists on fasting. But there's been instances where she has had to break her fast. She's 85. And we always remind her, hey, Umi, you don't have to fast, but she been fasting, so she gonna fast. So you have to really look at where are we, um, renewing our intentions, knowing what Allah allows, right? And knowing, yes, we will be tested, right? So it really just depends on, specifics and the person and what they're experiencing.
That
It's
is so.
funny, I mentioned this, some people also encourage their children to fast, right? And there are levels and states where, yes, alhamdulillah, we'll encourage the kids to fast, but realizing that, at the very young ages, it's more of an encouragement, it's more of an introduction, right? It's not something that we have to force. So really, again, looking at what stage we're at.
With the children, at one of the one last Ramadan, our one of our Islamic studies teacher, she has younger children. She has one of her son is very young. So and they came in that morning and she said, "Oh, and he's fasting today." And so it was like, oh, everybody make a big deal out of the fact, oh, he's fasting today, and and he'll fast until snack time, and so that would be, that's the introduction. That's
Introduction.
and everybody is excited and making, congratulating him for that, and so making him feel good about the fact that he fasts until
Snack.
yeah, until snack time. So it's important that we make the children see the fun in it, and it's not a chore, and it's not something laborious, and it's not something that's a burden to them. So I think even in this, as a teacher in the school or a parent, that we should be conscious of that and make fasting in the whole month of Ramadan a time of joy, a joyous time, a spiritual time as well, joyous as well as spiritual for our children.
I think
Absolutely.
that is so important. And I think when I heard you talking, it's like, oh, yes, I think it's important for us to help our children to understand that the fast of Ramadan is bigger than abstaining from food. And I think when we promote
Mm,
that message, that we bring that joy for them. And so, there's a good feeling that you get when you go to visit the sick, and when
mhm.
you even write a card for them and let them do that, or even let them help you pick out the decorations and do the decorations. I remember one year we had a painting party where we painted all of our signs, and we got this glow in the dark paint so that we can put it up, and that just made them so excited to do that kind of stuff as well.
Right.
So the fasting
Right.
is important, but I think helping our children to get in the thinking of Ramadan, and even like we began this
The
show
spirit.
talking about Rajab and Shawwal, and then Ramadan. So what if we do a whole 3 months of
Mhm.
preparation with them and get them ready, and then we get to Ramadan,
Mhm.
and let them pick the days that we're going to visit somebody, or that they plan an iftar even at the house, and they invite people and plan the meal or whatever it is, just to really, 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 I love the idea of engaging the children in it. So thank you, Dr. Patricia, for that reminder. I love that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also, looking at Shaban and Rajab, or
Yes.
Rajab and Shaban, and then Ramadan, um, the spirit of it, right? Because for our children, they don't celebrate Christmas. So I think it's really important that we make Ramadan the big deal. And it's
Mhm.
okay to make Ramadan the big deal, to celebrate it, to break out the lights and the little trinket boxes and the celebratory everything. Ooh, Ramadan's coming, Ramadan, come, make it a big deal, right? So Yusuf, he likes Ramadan moon, right? So we get the Ramadan moon, break it out. So he knows, hey, Ramadan is coming, right? To prepare them, to prepare the spirit so that they can celebrate it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's great. Why not? We're gonna celebrate, our holidays. Other people celebrate their holidays. But I think it's a great tradition that we can instill early on, and why not? That's something that they're going to carry with them through the rest of their life.
Yes. And a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I was just thinking, one of the things that we started doing at our weekend school is the school hosts an iftar, and the children serve the food. And when I tell you that so last year was the first year that we did it, and they were very much committed to the
Yep.
task. Everybody wanted to put on the gloves and serve the meals, and they were with it.
Right.
They were with it. They were like, "This is our iftar, and we're gonna feed the people," and they did. And
Mhm.
it was a beautiful thing to watch because oftentimes as we see the children grow older and come into themselves, we're always concerned about how closely connected they'll stay to us in the
Yeah.
community, and
Yeah.
so they'll have those memories to go back
Yes.
to, and have those nostalgic moments where they're like, yeah, I need to just go to the masjid, and serve some plates because it feels good to recall that time when we were doing that as children.
Yep.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So I mean, as we wrap up this conversation, because it's been a full one, right? We've been talking about preparing for Ramadan. We've been talking about during Ramadan. I talk a little bit before we close out. Talk a little bit about sort of after Ramadan. Like what's the after? Is there a prep for the after? Is it like a weaning down? I don't know. I mean, most of us, I feel like we're like, Eid is here and yay, let's
She
eat.
said, "Yay!" Well, you know what? Don't forget your 6 days of Shawwal. That's the icing on the
That's
cake,
true.
right? A lot
Yes,
of people focus on, yes, we did our Ramadan, we celebrated our Eid, you know what I mean? But that icing on the cake, that's at the end.
that's true.
That's
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
the six
Mm-hmm.
days, right? You get the reward of fasting for like an entire year for fasting 6 days. So let's
Mm-hmm.
not miss out on that. And I know we're celebrating the Eid. We got our 3 days. But after that, it's easier to start up and complete the 6 days than waiting a very long time and then saying, okay, now we got to get back into it because you're kind of far removed from it. So get it done as soon as like your 3 days of Eid is over. Get those 6 days done, alhamdulillah, and we're good, right? I think that would be my strategy, my reminder. Alhamdulillah. What do you guys
You
think?
know,
Yeah, so
when
that's
we
a
do
good one.
those, when we finish Ramadan, I mean, you kind of, I look forward to those 6 days because I feel like I'm still doing it. Because when you stop, it's like it's over. You know, I don't
You
get
trying
up
to
for
hold on to the Ramadan? You trying to hold on to
exactly.
that Ramadan feeling? Yeah.
Exactly. You want to. So when those 6 days are ready to get started again, I'm happy for those 6 days because now I feel like I'm still doing it. I don't feel like I'm missing on my. I miss. You miss getting up in the morning and having suhoor. You just kind of and you miss your iftars with your friends and your family members and your other people in the community. You kind of miss that. So when Shawwal comes around, those 6 days is good. I really look forward to those.
Yeah,
Winding
I was thinking
down.
about my children. Yeah, no, I'm thinking about my children. They're always like, all right, let's jump back into it. Let's just go ahead and get it done. That they kind of be on that order. So collectively, we're like, okay, you doing your 6 day. You starting today? We kind of like check in with each other. You starting today? So yeah,
And at
no,
least
this
you're
has
not
been a
doing it alone.
wonderful.
You're like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna get my buddies. I'm gonna do it with my family, or do it with my
Yes,
husband, and or do it with my friends, and we can still kind of come
yes.
over. Hey, potluck. Everybody bring something. We break fast. Like, hey, make it work.
Yeah, no, that's good too. That's a good point too of doing it with other people, right? Because then it's kind of like, okay, she's still fasting over there, but the rest of us are doing something else, and she just over there
Right.
starving herself still. But no, this has been a great conversation about prepping for Ramadan and best practices during Ramadan, and even what we should, all the things that we should be mindful about in terms of our intentions. Really, one of the things you mentioned about nutrition that stuck with me was hydrating. I drink water all day long, so I don't think I'm dehydrated, but who knows, right? But making sure that we're hydrated, and all of and just making sure that we have what we need to get started, and starting early so that it's a smooth transition. So we want to thank our guest, Sister Yakutula, for being with us today. Any last
Yeah.
words you want to share with us before we head out of here?
I just pray that Allah allows us to reach another Ramadan, alhamdulillah, and allows us to get the best reward and the best experience out of it, and that He
Amen.
accepts it from us. I mean,
I
Amen.
mean, you have
Amen.
been watching The Power of Educating Our Own. This is a podcast hosted by the Clara Muhammad Schools Network. And we are here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next week, Assalamu alaikum. May God's peace be with you. Have a great week.
all right, you too. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa
Walaikum
alaikum
salam.
assalam.
Sister Clara Muhammad, a black Muslim woman from Macon, Georgia, was an extraordinary leader and pioneer. Her contributions, especially in the development of Islamic education in America, paved the way for thousands of Muslim families to take ownership of their children's future, starting at a time when homeschooling was illegal in the United States. She eventually established a network of schools that was later named Sister Clara Muhammad Schools in her honor by her late son, Imam Warith Din Muhammad, rahimahullah. Sister Clara Muhammad helped to establish the important role women had in early Muslim American history and was an inspiration to future generations of leaders. Without her, there would not have been a nation of Islam, or the unique Sunni Muslim community that evolved from it, one that was acutely aware of the concerns and aspirations of women. May Allah have mercy on Sister Clara Muhammad.